All right, lady, we are live.
Mine never says it until you
Doesn't
say
say
it.
it? Yeah, no.
Now it says it. Well,
Yeah.
welcome everyone to another Facebook Live with Dr. Nelva Bryant. My name is Greta Russo, and Dr. Bryant, why don't you explain who you are?
Hi there, everyone. I'm Dr. Nelva Bryant. I am a veterinarian and I'm working in the airline industry. Um, let's see, what do I do? I work in the airline industry and I work for Delta Airlines. I have been on staff with them to help review and revise policies for animal transportation. And FYI, folks, transportation of animals, your pets, could be your pet, your dog, your cat, could be your bird, zoo animals, all these different animals. There are regulations behind their transportation. So it's extremely important to have someone on staff that's versed in different regulations and to help to apply them. Why is it important? Because during transportation, we must maintain animal welfare regulations. So that's why it's all related. That's why I'm working with Delta Airlines, and I'm thankful for that. These past few years, I have, because of the insight in that role, I've realized that there's a lot of things that as pet owners that needs to be done to help better prepare your pets for air travel. In the past, it always seems like oh, if something goes wrong, it's the airline's fault. But actually, you know what? If you look back, there's some things that you could do as a pet owner, and it's not a blame on pet owners, but it's an education. There's certain things that you're not aware of that you can do to better help prepare your pets for air travel. So that's why When Pets Fly, that's why I developed it. That's why we have these Facebook Lives to share information. And initially it was just to share pet travel education, but it's expanded, folks. There are so many different stakeholders related to pet travel or animal transportation in general that you're not aware of, things that you need to consider. Last week, we had Dr. Boaz Mann. Love that name, Boaz. Dr. Boaz was here, and he was talking about brachycephalic breeds and the issues that they have, I'd say, in routine, daily, just living situations. These pets, these dog breeds or cat breeds, have difficulty breathing due to their inherent facial features, internal structures that make it difficult for them routinely. Now imagine, add a little stress of travel, how difficult it is for them. So we had a session there and he discussed it. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to participate as well as I wanted to because my internet went down, and fingers crossed it's working today. And we'll have a great show today going forward with our guest, Megan Sprinkle. But before I get to her and what Megan is going to bring to us today is a feature. Megan, she's unique and wonderful in herself. She's a board certified veterinary nutritionist. And you might wonder, what does that have to do with pet travel? Well, you need to maintain the nutritional standards for your pet while they travel as well. So she's going to come on and share some information about that. But give us a minute there. Greta, number one, introduce yourself, and then share with us. Let's talk out some things that happened last week because it was outstanding conversation with Dr. Boaz.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. My name is I'm sorry, I'm not a doctor. My name is Greta Russo. In my head, I'm a lot of things, but in real life, I'm not a doctor. My name is Greta Russo.
Look, when you're around me enough, things starts. You start learning more. So you're learning a lot. Trust me, from being around us and everything. So you can say you're a pseudo veterinarian. We'll put it that way. You're close to it.
Well, I'm a professional pet parent. I know that much.
There we go. Yeah.
I've been, but I work with Dr. Bryant on with her marketing and doing events and just going on this fantastic journey with all of you and learning about animal transportation through airlines and all of the different rules, policy, and procedures that Dr. Bryant is heavily involved with. Updating and correcting and making so much better for all of the animals who board a plane. It's been such a great journey. We were talking about our journey. We started out thinking we were going to be pet centric, talking about, pet parents and their fur babies getting on the plane, only to realize there's so many other aspects that we should be talking about. And so we continue to grow, and wonderful viewers sending us requests or questions even. What about this subject? Or, what do you think about this? And that gets us to looking into things and inviting people on. Dr. Mann, who we had on last week for our Facebook Live, it was such an eye-opening conversation because, so many people think it's cute the way that Frenchies or even pugs, the way they make noises because, the snoring and, oh, he sounds just like my husband, or, something like that. It's not cute. It's the poor baby is gasping for air. And, when you have somebody just say it that frankly, it's like, oh, I don't want my baby gasping for air. And then, those small dogs are so they heat up very quickly. They get overheated. And a lot of pet parents throw clothes on them, and, that adds to the situation. And, it's just, you have to be so careful with them and taking them on the plane because, at those high altitudes, we don't know, honestly, how those altitudes are really affecting those breeds.
Right.
And God forbid if they have an allergy, and have a stuffy nose. Right. So it's a lot for pet parents that have the brachycephalic breeds. Really, really work with your veterinarian to think about, is this the best decision to take them on the flight? And if so, what can you do to make it as comfortable as possible? But Dr. Mann, he's got a surgery for you. Oh, yeah. And that's everything.
He's doing it. I mean, for looking out, you might think he's like, oh gosh, you're doing like a plastic surgeon for veterinarians. He's not doing these changes for cosmetic reasons. He's doing these changes to benefit these pets as far as so that they can breathe. They've got stenotic airways, so that snoring, which again they think is cute, it's not cute. They can't breathe. They can't. It's like breathing through a straw. So they can't breathe, and then internally, their elongated soft palate that causes difficulty. So he's going in and with laser surgery, basically a laser procedure, opening up the airways, shortening the soft palate, and really making some big changes for these dogs. So I'm really happy he's doing what he's doing. He says that he's not an expert. I think he is. He might be, in his mind, general practitioner, but he has stepped it up a notch and is providing a very detailed service for these pets, the brachycephalic breed. So I would say he's based out of Florida. Is it Boca Raton, Florida? I don't know if I said it correctly, but he's based out of Florida. Yeah. And I would highly recommend if you have a brachycephalic breed dog, your pug, your Boston Terrier, your Shar-Pei, believe it or not, Shar-Peis too, King Cavaliers, Spaniels, English Bulldog, French Bulldogs, anything short-faced, and they're having difficulty breathing, check out Dr. Mann.
Yeah, even cats. There's cats with the smush face as well. So give them a call. I had a bunch growing up, and they can have a lot of nasal issues and snoring, and even sometimes my one cat, Max, he was a black Himalayan, and he had allergies, believe it or not, and so I always had to help him blow his nose, but I know for certain I would not be able to take him on a plane because he was always prone to allergies. So
folks need to realize that there's one thing as far as, and this is not just say brachycephalic breeds, for all your pets traveling with you, and it could be going by cargo or in cabin, make sure they're medically fit for air travel. Consult with your veterinarian. I mean, you might have to go as far as getting a review of the medical records to ensure there's no underlying medical conditions with your pets too. So yes, we brought up a feature of brachycephalic breeds, but in general, if you don't have a brachycephalic breed dog, still have a medical record review, make sure there's no underlying conditions that could become exacerbated during transport, and definitely make sure you get a clean bill of health from your veterinarian if you're going to travel with them. And this is going to be in cabin or them traveling by cargo.
Absolutely. And shifting gears, we actually have our guest today is someone who's been with us before, and she was a very popular Facebook Live guest because we got to talk about pet nutrition and traveling. So that is definitely a hot topic and was something that was seen, when I was at the Super Zoo. If you were able to keep up with my Instagram lives that I did, I interviewed people who could have, their companies, their brands, that could be very beneficial to pet parents traveling. And they were different suggestions that they had in helping your pet travel with their nutrition. So let's bring on Dr. Megan Sprinkle. And, let me load up our clapping machine too. Hold on, I know she's coming on. So we gotta get the clapping machine ready so I can do it after I talk about her bio. But yes, so see, we're more professional now, Megan,
we're
since you were last here. So
we're trying.
We're getting things together. But everyone, let me reintroduce you to Dr. Megan Sprinkle. She is a board-certified veterinarian nutritionist. She has been a veterinarian for 10 years, specialized in clinical pet nutrition for 9 years, and worked in the larger pet nutrition ecosystem, including industry, for 7 years. She's currently the president of the American Academy of Veterinarian Nutrition, and recently started working for Whitebridge Pet Brands, a company that makes many popular pet brands such as Tiki Cat and Buddy Biscuit. She loves veterinarian medicine and has a podcast called Vet Life Reimagined, showing the vast possibilities in career paths in vet medicine. She also has a baby girl on the way, almost any day now. So we were lucky to squeeze her in before her child came on board. Dr. Sprinkle will share some of the exciting things happening with pet nutrition and technology innovation, and share a little behind the scenes of the multiple dimensions and players who have a part in getting nutrition to our pets. Everyone, please help me welcome Dr. Megan Sprinkle.
Thank you.
There we go. It didn't work too well. That's all right. We're happy to have you here.
That's the wrong one.
You get it?
Yes, absolutely. I'm sorry, I picked the wrong one. Oh. I had it lined up, but they must have moved the one I usually use to another area.
We are happy to have you here back with us again.
But yeah, that was our clap machine.
Well, thank you. I'm excited to be back. I'm glad to hear that people appreciate the topic around nutrition for sure.
Huge topic. And again, just to tie in a little bit from what you're saying for Super Zoo, from what I saw and also from what I've known some people that are strong in the pet industry, what you're feeding your pet is a huge topic. You've got folks talking about raw diets, vegan diets for dogs, and all these crazy things people are talking about. And, I always say, especially for the raw feeders, are you making sure that your food is nutritionally balanced for your pet? That's extremely important. You can give them all the beef in the world, especially for a dog. You can give them all the, ground beef or whatever, eggs and everything. We all have nutritional requirements. Are they making sure that's done? Or they just, I don't know. I don't understand all that, to be honest with you. And that's why I'm glad you're here to discuss that. And then also, you're like saying, how is this tying in with pet travel? Because let's maintain our nutritional consistency with your pet while they travel. So it's extremely important. So I'm glad you're here to discuss on that. Greta, I know Greta's going to have some crazy stuff she can share about what she saw when she was at Super Zoo in reference to that too. So this is going to be a great topic.
Yeah, I bet. And yeah, I'm again, like you said, I was with my colleague last year, Dr. Mary Cope on, and we talked a lot about different things when it comes to taking care of your pet's nutritional needs during travel, like all the things to think about. And so I thought this year we could also talk a little bit about some of the innovation and technology in nutrition and how that can all relate as well. So I love to see that you were able to go to Super Zoo and see some of the really interesting things that are available in our space. It can be actually a little overwhelming sometimes. And so hopefully we can make this pretty easy too, because I want to be able to make sure that people feel comfortable about the decisions they make when it comes to their nutrition for their pets. Because it's a really big topic and thing that as pet parents we have to make, because that's the one thing that we have to do for our pets every single day is feed them. And you are right that it is so important that because we feed our pets a little bit differently than we feed ourselves, for instance. With our pets, we do kind of have this neat aspect of being able to feed them a complete and balanced diet for their food. Sometimes I wish I could do that for myself so I didn't have to worry about, having half my plate be vegetables and, that kind of thing. So it's really neat that we can offer that for our pets because their health and happiness is extremely important. In fact, I thought this was interesting. I found this finding through a group. It's called Mintel, not the Barbie Mintel, a different group. But they looked at survey results and found that 61% of U.S. pet owners said that their pet's happiness and well-being is more important than their own. So it speaks volumes that we kind of love our pets.
More than ourselves. So you know what? From that, then I take that as just taking a step further. Then they're more concerned about their pet as far as feeding them, them liking what they're eating, than pulling back to making sure it's nutritionally balanced for them. That's what I'm putting together.
Oh, no, not necessarily, because
No?
it's happiness and well-being. So
Okay.
there's two big components to that, right, though? But I'm glad that you pointed that out. So yes, we definitely want our pets to be happy, but we also want them to be healthy. We adore our pets. They're living with us. I've got a 95-pound Great Dane beside me, hoping she stays asleep. She's in the house. She has her own couch, right? She's spoiled rotten. And because they really are becoming more part of our family, we want them to live as long as possible, right? We want to say forever. Unfortunately, we can't do forever, but we want to get as close as to that as possible. And so we are thinking about both of those things. And I think it's important to think about that as we are looking about the decisions we're making on choosing their food and nutrition, but also looking at the trends you may see. You'll probably see that emphasis on both the happiness, but as also the health and well-being of the pet as well.
Good.
A very good distinction there.
That's
Yeah. So again, like I said, I wanted to try to make this helpful. It's like we could talk about all these different trends, but like, where do I start when it comes to picking what's right for my pet? Because ultimately that's the question that we all have, right? It's like, I am looking at my unique pet. What do I do on picking the right diet or nutritional strategy for them? And so one of the big trends that we are seeing is really, and love to hear, Greta, if you saw some of this when you were there, is around personalized pet nutrition. So trying to find a diet or nutritional strategy that is as tailored to my individual pet as possible. So if you think about it, like our pets are very unique. They have certain preferences as well as nutritional and health focuses that we want to address. So I mentioned my Great Dane that's sitting next to me. She is quite unique. She has high anxiety. She's a rescue. She also has some allergies. Greta, you're talking about your cats that have had allergies. She has both food as well as environmental allergies. Because she's a dog of a veterinarian nutritionist, probably. She's a Great Dane. So she's a giant breed dog. And along with that comes some specific nutritional things that we can do for her. She's also super picky. I think she's like a ginormous cat sometimes, right? That she's just very, very picky. And so all of these things make Eva super unique. And all of them are things that I can look at when I'm trying to find a diet. And honestly, first and foremost, that's my priority, is to find a diet that doesn't make her turn pink and lick all the time because of her allergies, but also something that, back to the happiness part of it, is something that she enjoys eating. Even though I have tons of background in nutrition, and I know all her little nutritional needs that her body needs, at the end of the day, I do want my dog to enjoy her food that she's eating.
Mhm.
And so all of these things are going to be important when we're thinking about picking a diet. So again, I think that you'll probably see a lot of trends with looking at different health claims to really get to that nutritional need. You may see more diets that are around, especially dogs, because we have more sizes in dogs, around their size and some of the unique nutrition that they need based on their size. Even breed, some of these diets are looking at different breed diets as well. So, but when it comes to nutritional needs, such as, food allergies, or a big one that people are looking at, even if your dog isn't as crazy as mine and have all these health concerns, people are looking for things that have some type of function to them. So that's really more my point to you. But when we're trying to think about what makes our pet unique, there are some trends that are coming out that are trying to better understand that. So everything from surveys and apps that allow us to take these little surveys to understand more about our pet and how that can be implemented in making a diet choice. You've probably seen tons of those. There's also different pieces of technology that are coming out looking at, we've got some wearables that are looking at the activity of dogs and cats and trying to understand how many calories do they need a day. That's a big question too. Not only what do I feed, but how much do I feed to make sure that they stay in a good body condition. So there's those types of technologies that are coming out, all sorts of fancy feeders and all sorts of things to really support our individual pet and what they need. So Greta, I'm just kind of curious, did you see anything that was like very targeted into different types of pets and things when you were there?
I saw the automatic feeders, of course. But they were more of, dropping the kibble on a timely basis, or if the dog or cat pushed something or did something to earn the kibble. But let's see, as far as the other things that you were bringing up, I didn't see anything around that. Not to say it wasn't there, because I had miles and miles to walk in Super Zoo. And there was just some days I sat down and said, I'm not walking. But no, I didn't. It was interesting to hear you mention some of the technology that you did just mentioned, but I did not see some of that there.
But you did mention to me, remember you said Greta was on a panel and they had individuals talking about AI and how they're going to use AI to, did you say something about determine what their pet like to eat or something like that? And I was like, how are you using this technology? But again, tell me, how could AI be used to determine things within, as far as the diet and what's needed for a pet?
Yeah. So there's a lot of
to
different
give you
ways.
the context. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
No, go ahead.
Then I won't talk bad about them. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I wonder if I know who you might have been talking with about that. I actually did give an entire presentation about how technology is kind of interplaying with pet nutrition just yesterday, so it's kind of fresh on my mind. But there is a lot of some really interesting ways that AI has come into play to support pet nutrition and different strategies. The reason why I said I wonder if I know who she's talking about is that there is an entrepreneur. She makes a plant-based diet, a fresh diet for dogs. And she is really, because she's an entrepreneur, she's a PhD nutritionist on people side, and she used to work for Impossible Foods. And so she's kind of bringing some of that technology you learned from Impossible Foods to dogs, so that while it is a vegan plant-based diet, it's very meaty in texture, and they want it to make it smell and I haven't personally tried it, so I'm assuming taste to the dog like meat. But one of the things she talks about is trying to bring in AI to bring in a lot of what we know nutritionally from different like palatants and things that make these diets tasty or taste more meaty, and be able to put that in a type of algorithm, AI algorithm, that can help them know a faster path to innovation for what they're wanting to achieve, if that makes sense. So it's like, can we put in what we know into an AI algorithm? It can analyze all of those things and help direct us so that we can innovate faster and get to where we want to go faster. So everything from that aspect of AI to we're actually using them in test for dogs and cats. So like there's one that basically used big data. So it's taking like tons of data from all these cats, and they're actually able to predict the likelihood of kidney disease developing up to 2 years before we see anything on blood work. And the reason why that's relevant to nutrition is really nutrition is the cornerstone to supporting cats and dogs with kidney disease. So there's a lot of different things that we can actually pull AI into, which is pretty exciting. Some of them for pet owners, like that doesn't help me pick a diet for my for my pet right now, but it might one day. And these are our things that I encouraged the audience yesterday to think about, like, is there a way that we can bring AI into it to answer some of these questions that we as pet parents ask every day about our pet? So yeah, there's a lot of cool things.
That's cool. It's almost like a
Well,
meta
Megan,
analysis.
it sounds like
No, go ahead, Greta. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying it's like a
I
meta
was going to
analysis.
say it sounds like
I'm sorry. Let me say it. Then you say it. I was saying it sounds like a meta analysis, kind of just a lot of data that they're going to go through, and then that's what AI is going to make it easier for them to, I guess, examine or an analysis. But it's like a meta analysis of just a lot of data, and they're going to come up with this and everything. Very interesting, to be honest with you. I'm AI is just that's going to be the wave of the future, basically. That's the future.
Yeah. And that's exactly what AI is
Megan,
really good at right now.
Okay.
It sounds like it was the same person. Like everything you said hit on the person that I met. She was on the panel with me. And did she have like almost like a foreign accent?
Yes. Yep. Masa from Paco Foods. Yes.
Yep. Oh, yep. It's the same person. And so we were on the panel, but I swear to you, I was looking at like she had 3 heads because I was not understanding what she was saying to me. And I kept asking her like to repeat herself, and it just was not registering. But I think, I think I just had a hard time, number one, thinking that the best diet for a dog is to be a vegan. I think that's more of our own personal beliefs being pushed onto an animal that's used to eating meat. Yes, they do eat plants and vegetables and stuff like that, but you can't remove meat from its diet. That has a crucial role in their nutrition. That's my personal belief. And then that I had a problem with. And then the second thing was I was understanding her AI as to tell her what the dogs would like as far as what the food should taste like. And I was like, well, how is AI going to tell you what the dog like? Why don't you just do a trial and see if it likes it? But that was the only other thing. I was just kind of confused in my head about this lady. So I kept looking at her like she had 3 heads with everything she was talking about.
Yes. So a lot of times, back to what both of you said, kind of putting those things together, is that right now AI is really good at looking through currently known data points, right? So what you talked about, Greta, about having food trials to understand what cats and dogs like, that is going to be a huge part of bringing in AI. I'm actually kind of glad that we can't just push a button and AI can just do anything and everything, right? It has to take, the data that you give it, and then it can really help you much faster than a human being scroll through all that data and help you with predictive models going forward. So you're right. It can't take absolutely nothing and say what a dog is going to like. It has to use all of this data that we have based off our feeding trials and our experiences so far and help us to come to a better conclusion going forward. So yeah, there's a lot more work than, and again, I find this comforting. There's a lot more work and things that we have to work together as a human and an AI to make these things possible. And then to comment on, your thoughts around, what you would want to feed a dog, right? We started talking about individual nutrition and what, our individual pet seems to like and need the most. And while that's kind of fundamental and something that us as the pet owner, we know our pet pretty much more than anybody with the help of a veterinarian, right? The veterinary team can bring in that medical perspective as well. And so I think together between the pet parent and the veterinary team, we have this understanding of the basic things that our pet really needs and how they will thrive. Because we do have dogs, food allergies tends to be a good example where we do actually have to or we find that they do better on a technically vegetarian type of diet because of that very unique need. Now, otherwise healthy dogs, they don't have a worry about that. Eva would not survive in the wild, I don't think. But so that you have to take all of those things into consideration when it's picking the right one for your pet. And I think that's so important to bring up because I never want people to take the attitude where we're shaming other people for the decisions that they make. Because again, you and your veterinary team have discussed what is helpful for your pet. And then, the next level would be your own personal nutrition philosophy as well. And that has brought in a lot of different trends as well. Everything from, vegan options, where some people really believe in vegan from a sustainability perspective, environmentally conscious perspective. So that's another thing that we're seeing in trends are different products and brands that are trying to look and say, how can we be a little bit more sustainable? A lot of companies are looking at sustainable packaging. So maybe packaging that's recyclable. That's kind of like low-hanging fruit for a lot of companies. But some are going really far into like alternative protein sources. And maybe you saw some insect protein things out there at Super Zoo. So there are different layers to that. And I think it's fine to, think about those things. One, what have I talked to about my veterinarian? What have I noticed about my pet that's really unique that we kind of need to focus on? And then, incorporating our personal nutritional philosophy for our individual pet, especially with me working more with cats this year, I've really gotten to focus a lot on cats. I talk about a very unique species that has very unique nutritional needs, even compared to dogs, especially compared to dogs. I know in veterinary medicine, Nelva, you've probably heard this like 100 times, is cats are not small dogs, right?
Right.
They're very, very different.
Mhm.
And so, and we were also talking before that, cats, I hope are getting more recognition. For many years, they've kind of been treated, it breaks my heart to say this, kind of like a second class citizen. I have dogs and cats, by the way. And so I love being able to focus more on them. And I would love to hear the audience. I would love to hear if people have traveled with their cats, because cats are, they're becoming more popular. There are some countries. I definitely know in the European side, there's far more cats as pets than dogs. So cats are king over there,
Yeah.
which is awesome. But we have a lot of cats. They may be traveling more too with us, and they have unique needs as well. So we've been talking a lot about individualized nutrition, understanding what our pets need. At the same time, thinking about, are you traveling a lot with your pet? Or maybe you don't, but now we are, right? We're doing a big move and now we have to think about this for our pet. So taking what we currently know and then thinking about some of the things that come with travel. Again, the one thing we always have to do, no matter we're traveling or not, is feed our pet, make sure that they're getting the nutrition they need and also are comfortable. That also comes into play as well. So yeah, that was a lot. I'll pause and let you
Yeah.
comment.
That was great, Megan. There's a lot of things as far as cats. Just some cats, definitely. The interesting thing when you brought up cats as far as traveling, and I'm thinking internationally.
Mhm.
The regulations as far as traveling. I'll bring up CDC's regulations being fairly current. But you know the interesting thing about the importation requirements coming back to the country with a cat? They just have to appear healthy. They're not even require them to have a health certificate or rabies vaccination certificate. They just have to appear healthy. That's crazy. So for folks traveling with your cats coming back to the United States, it's very easy to come in with a cat. So and again, I don't know why it's that way, but that's the way the regulations have been written, and that's the way it's been for years. CDC upgraded their regulatory requirements, but is focusing on dogs and primarily coming from high-risk countries. So very interesting. But yeah, cats need, I'll be honest, I'm a dog owner. I've only had 2 cats in my whole lifetime. And I'm sorry, we just didn't bond as well as I do with my dogs. But for those that have cats and traveling, more attention should be based upon them. They do have specific requirements, probably a little bit stronger than dogs. I don't know if you can very easily. I don't know about you. Does your cats eat just anything? Are they particular? I have no idea how they behave when it comes to food. If you can give them anything, if they turn their nose up. I would assume cats are finicky. So,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you may have to rein me in. I got excited talking about because cats are really just so unique, and
Mhm.
just that fact alone, Nelva, you may see an increase in travel with cats if
Yeah.
it is so easy to do so. Right, wrong, and different. But so that's good to know. Yes, cats are actually known for being very, very picky,
Mhm.
and the cats that I have they're actually outdoor cats. They're technically feral, but we've adopted each other, and so
Mhm.
you may not know this that they're
Mhm.
feral. We have a mama and a baby cat, and even as a feral cat, like there's been one diet that they have tried, and they did not appreciate that diet, and so even as a feral cat, and I looked at them and I said, "You should not be picky,"
Right.
but they are, and with cats too, and honestly, it's the same with dogs. It's just more pronounced in cats. Not only is it a taste thing, it's a texture, the way it
Mhm.
feels in their mouth, moisture content, all of those things are aroma, temperature, you name it. The cat can be
Mhm.
extremely picky about it. And so that's a big thing to think about if you're having to travel. Because I talk to veterinarians a lot. When a cat gets sick, it might need a special diet that we recommend. It's like
Yeah.
how can we be successful in getting that cat to eat a diet that we need them to eat to help them
Yeah.
from a health perspective. And so one of those things that I talk to veterinarians about is make sure you're talking to the pet owner, because that pet owner has experience. They know what their cat likes and what they don't like. Now,
Mhm.
sometimes cats can surprise us, but that pet owner is going to be very, very helpful. So, those out there, work with your veterinarian on letting them know what your cat likes, and that's going to help you be much more successful in the long run. And the other thing that I tell veterinarians that they find really helpful, and pet owners, you can help with this too, is that cats are more open to trying a new food if they feel comfortable and safe. Because cats also don't like a lot of change. So this is super important if you're traveling too. Now, some cats are going to be a little bit better than others, like each
Mhm.
individual cat thing, but cats really like their routine. and they like to be in a quiet, safe environment to eat. Because they did domesticate very differently than dogs. It's just it's a different relationship. It's a different everything. And so when you are traveling, that's something to think about, is trying to be as consistent as possible in that process, so they are comfortable. It's like, I that's the smell of my food I'm used to. And so trying to keep that very normal for them as possible is going to be very helpful. So same thing on the health side of things. Let's say we've got a cat that's in the hospital, and we've diagnosed something, whatever, and we now are going to want them to be on a different type of diet long term. I recommend don't start that diet in the hospital, because the hospital is not, it's not home. I don't know if this might be a little too TMI, but if you ever have to go to do number 2 on the potty, right? I'm sorry, I'm having a baby. I'm getting practice time. Uh, you feel more comfortable going at home, right?
Right.
Same thing with cats. Like when you get them home and they're a little bit more comfortable, they're probably more open to trying new things as well. So a lot of things to potentially think about with cats.
Yeah. I'm going to add one thing as far as cats, since you brought up that topic.
Okay.
There's people that actually have done in the past, which is a big no-no. There's people that actually put the litter box inside the crate with their cat, and transport them with the litter box inside the crate before.
Oh no.
Because they're feeling that they need their litter box with them, but no. And imagine, I've seen it happen, and imagine the mess that it made, because litter went everywhere, everything. How are you going to keep everything under control? The cat doesn't have enough spacing, but I have seen people do that because they think that their cats need their litter box with them to travel in their travel crate. No, please don't do that.
They're probably going to hold it.
Yeah, they're going to hold it either way. So yeah, there's a lot you have to consider with cats, traveling with your cats. I've seen some things where videos that folks have done is they've actually bought a portable litter box and went into the service animal relief area inside the airport and let their cats go into that. So they'll go and everything like that. But there's a strong chance that your cat is not going to eat or go to the bathroom during transport because it's stressful. Dogs are different. But for your cats, being, as you're saying, they're a little bit different how they were domesticated. And again, it's very stressful for them. So they probably won't. But one thing I worry about too, though, now getting back to nutrition, is that they are extremely sensitive. If they don't, especially if they're, I'm thinking about fatty liver. You've got a cat that has a little weight on them, and if they don't eat, they're going to get fatty liver, hepatic lipidosis, and that sets off another series of problems with them that you don't want to happen. So we've got to make sure our pet owners are aware that we've got to keep a consistent diet. They have to continue eating during transport. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I mean, exactly what you just said. Again, as consistent as we can. Cats are unique. And even something that you mentioned earlier around dogs, just because the CDC doesn't have a requirement of, a veterinary visit or anything like that, really understanding the health of your cat before travel, I think, is really important. And having that conversation with the veterinarian and saying, what are some things we should be thinking about for my cat, fill in name, so that we can be as prepared as possible. Or, if it is an optional travel, is it right for this cat in this moment? And, that can be a hard question to ask, because you really want to take your cat wherever. But, I think those are important questions to talk about, and there may be some things that we can do to again make that as normal as possible, like same food, trying to time it correctly. So again, working with your veterinary team about your cat, trying to make things as normal as possible is helpful. And just, again, knowing some unique things. Does your cat seem to vomit when it travels? And you can even, hopefully we're trying to do better about making cats more comfortable going to the veterinarian, but even that can be really stressful for some cats. And so maybe you've had experience of, yeah, my cat urinates everywhere, or my cat does this everywhere. Well, maybe there are some things that we can try to do to make that a more comfortable experience, both for the veterinarian visit, but also for something even more substantial.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Just to bring you back to something you mentioned earlier, which was personalized pet nutrition. Is that, do you go to your veterinarian for that, or is there a specialized veterinarian that you go to? Is that you? Like, how does a pet parent get that, or can they do it on their own?
What a fantastic question. So some of this the pet owner can do themselves. So again, I mentioned like there's apps and surveys to start, especially if your pet is otherwise healthy. Let's say you got a brand new puppy or a brand new kitten, those kinds of things. You probably could do a little bit of internet searching. We all do anyway, right? I admit it. I do it too. But yes, anytime you're at the veterinary visit, talk about nutrition with them so that they can help you look at some of these unique features about your pet. But again, some of them are pretty straightforward. Like, again, Eva's 95 pounds. She's a giant breed dog. It's something I don't need to ask my vet about that. I can see that. And so, there are some things that we can definitely do. As your pet gets older and may have new things that pop up, or and weight is a big one too. I think people tend to forget, as like, is my pet at a good weight, or do we need to maybe either change diet or change amounts or something like that to adjust? That's great to talk with your veterinary team about too. So there's some things that you can do on your own to start looking at what's unique about my pet. And there's, again, because there's a trend of more products over the counter that have special features to them. So I mentioned, sorry, I've been working with cats a lot. There's like there's hairball. You may see a diet that talks about reducing hairball. There's some that talk about like indoor cat. That's a big one too. You might see a bag of food for indoor cats versus a really active outdoor cat like I have, something like that. So some of those things you can, as a pet owner, observe and kind of look for options. If for some reason you do have a health concern about your pet, especially that is not resolving very quickly, all the more reason to talk to your general practice veterinarian about it and start the conversation to see if you need something a little bit different. But yeah, foundational, otherwise healthy, you can start looking for options that are more targeted to your pet.
I do like that you have the personalized pet nutrition and all the different features you discussed with it. I'll be honest, I've never really thought about it too much with my dogs that I have and everything. Just never thought about it. But yeah, every pet is going to be unique. You could have two, and it could be totally different as far as how they eat. One, my Naya, if she doesn't eat, I mean, she eats everything. So if she doesn't eat, there's something going on. And then you might have another one that's kind of finicky, and you already know they're going to be, be a certain way. But the ones that eat and then they don't, what's wrong? Because that's not normal. When you have ones that are really food motivated and really like their food. So pet owners need to realize that too, with situations with them, because you're going to get variations. My mom always says we have a French English mix at home with my mom in New York, and she's like, Prince didn't eat. He didn't do this. He didn't eat. I'm like, well, he kind of always finicky. There's something he doesn't eat as well as the others. And we have to also, same as with people, there's going to be variations, right? Not everybody is the same. So it might be something, as you said, his personalized nutrition is something different on how he responds to food. It's just something different.
Yep. You're right. Some pet owners are going to have more challenges than others. There's some that are going to have like the very food motivated dog. And so they'll eat anything you put in front of them. Now with those, you might want to watch on that. We talked about body
Yes.
weight, right?
Yes. Yes.
Maybe that's something to look for.
Right.
Thank goodness they're not picky, but on the other side, it's like, okay, they might tend to eat too much if we don't watch how much we feed.
Right.
And so maybe we don't want to have the highest calorie type of diet for them because, if they like eating so much, let's give them something that's a little lower in calories so they can enjoy all that volume without so much calories.
Right. Right. I put my Naya during the pandemic. She gained, and I put her on the diet. I decided to, as far as her kibble that she was eating, I measured it out each time. And then to supplement her, she gets cherry tomatoes. She gets sliced cucumbers. I do give her like a boiled egg with it, cut it up and everything with it. And she gets diced apples. And that's the filling portion of it. And she lost weight based on that. So it works. Sometimes we need to be on diets, and sometimes they need to be on diets too. We just find ways to still meet their nutritional needs, hopefully, and then supplement with other fruits or vegetables. I think it's really good for them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, question. So I know that Dr. Karen Becker, she has a new cookbook out for, I think it's just for dogs, not really cats. And it's really doing well with the book sales and everything. Is that the type of book that pet parents should pick up to create a personalized pet nutrition for their pet?
Oh, goodness. You're going to put me on the spot on this question. So nutrition, I'm going to back up and preface before I answer your question just a second, because with kind of like you were talking about, Greta, it's like you have a certain idea of what you think that dogs should eat. And that's a great example of the topic of pet nutrition is a very emotional topic for a lot of people.
Yes.
People feel very strongly certain ways. And so you could probably take 10 even veterinarians, put them on the stage, and they may all have different opinions on certain things when it comes to pet nutrition. So I'm going to preface that and also stand true to my I live by not shaming or, let's have a conversation, let's talk about what's important to you kind of stance. Now, I will say, going back to what we talked about on complete and balanced nutrition for pets, that is really important strategy. We really want to make sure that they are getting the right balance of nutrients, not just to meet their body needs, but also, like body weight needs, all of those things. There's a lot to go into it. And the challenge with anything that's like a homemade recipe is it's extremely hard to make a complete and balanced diet cooking for your pet. There are ways to do it. There's several different companies that acknowledge that people are interested in feeding more of a fresh type food. And so they're trying to make it as easy as possible. And they'll offer like vitamin and mineral supplements. They'll, give you a very specific recipe that you have to follow to a T, as in like if that says 95% lean ground beef, it does not mean you can replace it with 75% lean ground beef. It has to be followed very much to a T, including all of the vitamins and supplement things that come with it. So there are ways you can do that as carefully as possible. I tend to be very wary of a recipe in a book because I just know how hard it is to make that complete and balanced. So again, if people are interested in doing more of a homemade approach, I would probably recommend maybe some other ways of doing that. In complete honesty, I don't think I've read her new book. So I don't know what those recipes look like, but that's probably not my first go-to in general on finding a tailored nutrition diet. If you're interested in feeding fresh, that could be a whole nother conversation. But it's a very relevant question because more and more pet owners are feeding fresh style foods. The number got brought up yesterday in that talk I was talking about, and we're looking at around 20% of pet parents are interested in feeding some amount of food for their pet in that fresh style. So it is a big trend that's going on. I do not see it going away at all, but there's lots of ways of doing it. So if that is something that you feel very passionate about, there are definitely lots of options out there. So
Yeah.
went around the bush on that question. Sorry about about that, but hopefully that helps.
Good.
No.
But there's so many trends out. If you think about it too, you mentioned vegan, the gluten-free, grain-free, raw food. There's so many different trends out, and yeah, I guess it is a lot of it is personal of what they feel is best. But I personally just try to go back to, and again, what I did to get my dog to lose weight. I'm hoping I followed everything nutritionally balanced for her, but it's all, again, it's a personal feeling on what you think is best and everything. So, which, we have to understand that, but then also for those that are making their own diets or whatever for their pets, you got to make sure they're nutritionally balanced. And we've got to go back to that.
Yeah, absolutely. And the good, I mean, two things there. One, it's good that we have a lot of options, right? And styles and types, and because it meets a lot of people's interests. At the same time, it can also be equally overwhelming to know, right? And that's what I was hoping to do is not to make it too overwhelming by talking about all the trends, but again, foundationally understand your unique pet, working with the veterinary team, knowing some of the things to think about, making sure that it's complete and balanced. And then that second part of, style or type can kind of be second to play. Still fun to talk about. Again, this is my world. I'm fascinated by it, but not to let yourself get too stressed out about it. Work with your team, know your pet, start one place. If it's doing well, that's great. You can always revisit it if for some reason something comes up.
So, with one of the aspects that a lot of the vendors that I had interviewed at SuperZoo, they were giving recommendations for pet parents and when they travel. Now, of course, we're hoping that pet parents have their pets on these brands in the first place. But what a lot of them were saying when they travel, the easiest, most efficient, and even cleanest way to travel with food is to have the kibble, of course, and you can put that in any easy Ziploc bag. But then they were recommending mixing into the kibble, whether it be freeze-dried meats or as opposed to like the raw meats, because you got to keep them refrigerated. But they were really recommending the freeze-dried stuff because they're not wet in transportation. You can add water to make a nice full meal, or keep it dry, and they eat it that way. But all of the different brands that I had spoken to, they all consistently recommended the same thing. Take a base of the kibble and then add on top of it either a topper, gravy. They even recommend it in the little transportable pouches, single pouches you can put over the kibble. They recommended, again, the freeze dried. And if they even said if you plan to ship the meat to where you're going to, that would even be a good substitute as well. So you're not taking that with you on the plane. So those were all the main highlights that the different food companies were recommending as their tips for traveling with food. Do you have any further tips to add to traveling with your dog and their food, or cat and their food, or do you think something should be different in what the food manufacturers recommended?
Yeah. So again, it may depend on what they're currently used to. So again, trying to be as consistent as possible. But you're right, if your dog is used to fresh foods, it's really hard to pack a bunch of food. And because remember, it's potentially not just for the plane trip, it's also maybe you're going on vacation and you have to take all of that food with you, so they're eating while you're on that trip. And so you have to really pack a lot, and fresh food, because there's a lot of water content to it, it's going to weigh more, and it often needs to be refrigerated. So if they are used to that, it might be a good idea to, if you can, know before you go. If you are worried about them eating during that travel period, is maybe start to work in small amounts of something that is a little bit more shelf stable. So there are a lot of options. If they're used to fresh types of foods, there are some shelf stable options, whether it's canned foods. There's it's a style of packaging called Tetra Pak. So it kind of looks like, if you think about the juice boxes we used to drink when we were kids, and sometimes you can find soup that are in kind of those little packaging. So that's a way to make a wet type of food shelf stable as well. So maybe, starting to introduce those a little bit before the trip, you have that for you while you're there, that you're not having to worry about refrigeration and that kind of thing. So kind of preparing as much beforehand as possible. If you do find something that's rehydratable, that can be a great option to travel. Dehydrated foods are off because you're sucking all the water out of it. It's much lighter to carry as well, but the fact that it's rehydratable, they can be a little bit more accustomed to it. With the freeze-dried raw, though, I will say that if it truly is raw, that still can carry pathogens and things to think about. So to always maintain washing your hands and washing the bowls, like trying to maintain as much sanitation practices as well throughout that process. Because that's really yucky if you think about traveling with something that is raw. Freeze-dried does not kill, right? If it's truly raw, it still hasn't been cooked. So just to kind of think about that also when you're traveling, you still have to maintain all of that sanitation practice. So just a little caution on that part of things.
Just some things to think about. Again, as we mentioned offline prior to this, worst thing you need to happen while you're traveling anywhere with your pet is for them to have either vomiting or diarrhea while you're away. Bad situation. Now you're going to have to seek veterinary care. We need to resolve that issue. So finding ways to keep consistent with their meals, and so there's no issues while you're traveling is best thing to do. So I love the advice you're giving, Megan. It's outstanding. Gretchen Beckert also is listening in with us today. She wanted to just bring up one thing. She's definitely agreeing. She's a fellow veterinarian too. But she's also, one question she had is thoughts on grain-free. It's a very controversial topic, I know. And I know we're almost we're basically out of time, but we'll go over a little bit. But grain-free diets, I worry about them personally from what I do know about them. But just your thoughts on it. Again, I know it's a mindset and it's what people feel they need for their pets, but you do know the controversy behind grain-free and dogs. And
very well aware. Yes, I will start with saying that grain-free is a little bit more of a marketing term if you think about it, because what grain-free could mean is a lot of different things. It just means that we are not using grains in this diet. It doesn't mean that it's carbohydrate free. It doesn't really mean much more than that. It's literally, that's what that means. And so I do understand the controversy. There's concern over understanding, is this complete imbalance technically for a particular pet? And going back to individualized nutrition as well, is that on the veterinary side, understanding some of the concerns around that, it tends to be what we know in research, probably more likely a concern for certain types of dogs. So understanding that, again, understanding your unique dog's needs might be like, okay, if you're really passionate about grain-free, if you like potatoes better than, grains, okay. But if there's a dog that you think, this seems to be more consistent with what we might have a concern, it's worth having a conversation with that pet parent about it. But I'm not one of those that I'm completely no grain-free. It's really understanding the diet, the company that is making those diets, and understanding the individual pet and what they really need. So if there are concerns, again, having a conversation with your veterinary team about it, expressing why you're interested in grain-free too. It's good to understand why. If you're not really able to answer that question, maybe stop and wonder, like, why. So kind of understanding that part of it too. So that's my quick spiel.
That was awesome. Just really a great synopsis. I think honestly, one of the best things we've learned from, at least that I got from our conversation today, is really honestly, of course, the consistency with nutrition during transport or travel, yes, but setting up that personalized pet nutrition plan for your pet, that's extremely important.
Yep, absolutely. It's a great place to start too. Again, it can get really overwhelming. And so starting with the individual pet in mind is that can like start ruling out a lot of different things. So yeah, hopefully it was very helpful.
Yeah, very, very. All right, we are all.
And the other thing that I picked up on, it was like another reminder, is that Dr. Bryant, you and I have talked about practicing different things when you travel with your pet, practicing with the crate, practicing, even when you're walking. But Dr. Sprinkle, you mentioned if practicing the foods that you're going to eat, if you're going to introduce something new on the trip, do it before you go. So you're not all of a sudden just bringing a new food on them while they're gone. They can get used to it at home. So when you said that, that was like, another light bulb went off with, just another thing that pet parents have to practice. It's the the preparation for your trip. If you're going to use something new, like the freeze dried, like you said, or a couple of things that you had mentioned, get them used to it, see if they even like it before you go, and spring it on them then.
Exactly. Yeah, no, those are great. Well, thank you so much for having me. Again, I've enjoyed being back, and hopefully it was helpful.
Time flies, right? Before you know it, look at it. We're over time, but loving every minute of it because you shared some valuable information. So thank you again, Megan, for coming with us. I really, really appreciate it. And please, for folks that don't know, Megan has her own podcast, Vet Life Reimagined. That's actually how we initially first met, I believe. And she was so gracious to allow me to be on her podcast. And from there, I remember she had said something about nutrition, and we were like, what is that? Yeah, better now. So I was like, what does nutrition have to do with pet travel? She gave us valuable information prior, and that's why we brought her back to share more valuable information and just get innovations with pet nutrition. And again, today we learned some valuable stuff. So I hope you did as well.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I just want to thank you, Megan, for joining us. Everything was great again, because, even though you were on before, number one, you can never keep repeating the information over and over, because it's not to say we had the same people listening like we did before. And it's always nice to reinforce through repetition. So thank you so much for giving all the gems about nutrition at home and nutrition on the go. So, is there any last things you would like to say to everyone?
I don't think so. Definitely. If there's the veterinary audience listening, I definitely feel free to check out the podcast. I really do love veterinary medicine and all the possibilities that we can do in our careers, and that's what inspired the podcast. So now, if you're expecting a lot of nutrition, don't go there. we talk about all things veterinary medicine and careers and possibilities. So it's a very wide angle on veterinary medicine, but love to have new listeners and get your thoughts on it. So yeah, again, thank you so much for having me. Anytime I can come and be of help, please let me know.
Definitely. Well, I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, thank you everyone for joining us for another Facebook Live with Dr. Nelva Bryant, and we will see you in the month of September.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.